All right. So thanks for tuning in to this training. This is called Engage and Connect 10 activities to strengthen teacher student relationships all year long. This is sort of a part two or a sister presentation to one I had done previously on building relationships at the beginning of the year, both I think it was regardless of settings. So this is when we're coming off of COVID. So it was real important then. It continues to be really important now and as it was before, to build connections with students. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But in order for this to be extra helpful for you, it would be helpful if you had the slides. You can find the slides at that link that's there. It is case sensitive. And these are 10 of a large document of activities that are all get to know you activities. So you can find those activities at the second link there, the bit.ly/nice2meet2, right? And then my contact information is on that slide as well. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions at all about any of these. This is designed for you to be able to pause and reflect and maybe use some of the templates that I give you, all right, in the process. So feel free to do that. The goal for today is listed at the bottom. We're going to look at 10 activities to help you engage and connect with students so you can establish and maintain a good impression and build relational capacity with those students. And then we'll call it successful if you can use or adapt at least one of these throughout the school year. But I hope you can do a lot of them, and they are listed there on the agenda. So let's jump into the first one. Actually, now, let's talk about, before we do that, let's talk about why. Why, though? Why is this important, right? In order to have students think critically and have higher order thinking activities, something needs to happen first, right? Students need to have their basic needs met. So if they lack any of their basic human needs at any point, the environment is not ideal for them to think critically, right? As demonstrated in that graphic by Bloom's taxonomy. And so the old adage goes, students can't bloom without Maslow, right? That's Maslow's hierarchy of needs in the triangle. So that's why we want to try to create a comfortable environment. One part of creating that comfortable environment is getting to know them and having them get to know you, right? And so, and then showing them that you care. And so that's kind of what the goal of each of these 10 activities is. Okay. So the way I'm going to present them is what I like to call the buffet analogy. So you think about a buffet, you don't eat everything at the buffet. You can, right? But you don't have to do that. You can take a look at the spread that they give you, take what you want, leave what you don't, come back for seconds for the stuff that really works for you, right? So that can include, for you in this situation, I'm providing templates, samples and or tutorial videos and or directions so that these are as plug and play ready as possible for you. So you can take these and adapt them or just take them and use them next day. So I hope that you find something helpful in all of these. So the first one is what I like to call animated introductions. All right. Now, the first several can be very helpful, this one included, to get to know your students, so an initial get to know you activity. But then once they master that activity, you can use it as a review activity with content. So you introduce the relatively fun non-academic activity before you use it to assess or help students learn the content. And so this first one can be used through Adobe Express, which if you have a district account or a school related account rather, it's free. All right, so you can just Google Adobe Express for Education and create a login if it doesn't already log you in automatically, and say that you're a teacher and you get all this stuff for free. And by the way, your students do too. All right. So here's what it looks like. So this is a sample.
Hi, my name is David, and I love pupusas. My favorite movie is Inception, and I love to read stuff, but mostly comic books.
It's true. I love me a good comic book, and so I only did that by recording my voice. Right. So this is how I did it. So we went into Adobe Express for Education, and it's sometimes the title is called Animate Your Voice. Sometimes it's called Animate a Character. So you just click on one of those, and you get a page that looks something like this. There's a background and hundreds of characters to choose from. And you can select the character and put them in that background and adjust the size and and the positioning of the character. And then you click the record button, and it just records your voice, but based on the intonations and content and things like that, it animates the character, and the lips kind of fit. Right. Notice that there's the enhanced speech little switch there. It's really like fascinating. When you turn that on, I've done this in classrooms, full like classrooms, and you don't pick up the 39 other kids that are doing their recordings at the same time. It's just the one. It's pretty impressive. So you select your character, you put it on there, and you record. The other option when you click on background is you can upload your own background. So the character might be in your classroom. If you take a picture of your classroom and upload that as a background. So this is a great way for students to start to introduce themselves, kind of like how I did there, with just some simple kind of shallow things, right? Like, hey, my favorite movie, my favorite food, stuff I like to do. And it gets students used to recording themselves in a relatively safe way, right? They're not recording their face before they don't know anybody or anything like that, right? And so that's fun, I think. Then once they're used to doing this, then they can use it for content, right? And like explain, the quadratic formula, using a character, and tell me why you chose that character, whatever the content might be. But then as a teacher, this is also fun to keep using. So here's what I did with this one. I uploaded my own background, and it's a picture of my dog, Snowball. And instead of a character on the background, or actually one of the characters is a pair of lips. There's several different lips you can choose from. And, I moved it and adjusted the size so that it's over my dog's mouth, and recorded this.
Remember that for today's assignment, you're going to have to write down your name.
So my sub plans are now given by my dog. And students kind of, so the dog lovers especially get a hoot out of it.
Remember.
All right. So kind of rushed through that, but I've also included in the slides and on my YouTube channel, you can find a step-by-step explanation of how to make those animated characters. Okay. All right. The next one that could also be used as an introduction and then later on as a review is the All About Me bento box. And this can be done, again, through Adobe Express or through Canva if you're more comfortable with that, or Google Slides, right? It's just easily adaptable. Can even be done on paper, actually. So this was inspired by the great Amanda Sandoval, and I've linked to her content here, which is I highly recommend. But someone retweeted something that they were inspired by her and adapted it into this, and so it's this symbolism box. So you have a list of questions. Here it is bigger, and then students respond through with images. Right. So here's some of the examples of this person's tweet or retweet there, where they answered the questions in the boxes and then have an image for it. What I think would be even cooler is to put it together in an actual bento box, right? And those are like, if you're not familiar, those are the boxes with the little, or like the to-go boxes with little compartments for everything, right? So here's a website with a ton of bento box layout slides that are compatible with Google Slides. And so, they're already broken up into squares by themes. So you can use that to have students answer questions about themselves, my favorite things, my favorite colors, food, movies, all in bento boxes, right? Later on, that can be used with content to review, so you have the prompts, and then students use images to respond to the prompts and also type in the spaces. So anyway, so that's that one. Next is what I love to do, the snowball fight intros and reviews. Again, great for an introduction, great for a review. So you can start by getting a blank sheet of paper, maybe one like scratch paper, that you might have laying around, something that might already need to be thrown away, right? And you have students write down 5 facts about themselves, but don't write their names on it, right? So, and then you do this. So they crumple them up and then throw them at each other. One side wins, depending on how many crumpled up snowballs there are. And then you take them out and you uncrumple them and you read the 5 facts. Then we guess who said that, right? One of my favorite moments of this was a student asked, like on the paper, it said, "I like smashing pumpkins." And another student was like, "What did the pumpkins do to you?" And, of that generation. So I was like, dude, it's banned. Right? Good taste. But anyway. So that's for a get to know you activity. But then I found that this was really great as a review activity. And so here's how it works with a review activity. So I did this in or the example I'm providing here is from a summer I taught health, 9th grade health. So it said, think of a term or a topic we covered during class, during this unit, then write down 5 facts about the topic, but don't write down the term, like this, right? So in health, come up with a term, and some of the examples were body systems, and STI that they researched, sleep information, drugs, etc. Right? In this case, it was body structures in this example, and so it works as a structure for your body, gives your body its shape. It's the skeletal system, but they didn't write that the skeletal system. Only 5 facts about the skeletal system, right? Then I have them write their name on it. Right? So these are the 5 facts about this term. I'm going to write my name and then have two other students fact check it, right? So then they're sort of reviewing together, right? So David would then take it to Justin and say, "Hey, these are 5 things I wrote down. What do you think they are?" And he might say, like, "Well, I don't know," right? And is it the digestive system? And then David can be like, "No, it's this because of this," right? So it's you're creating review situations for them, right? So I have 2 students fact check it. Also, when we're reviewing these, if there are mistakes, this becomes a really good moment to be able to correct those mistakes and course correct, right? Their understanding, right? So 5 facts, your name, 2 fact checkers' names. And I would say do this at least twice with 2 more terms, so you just have more snowballs, right? And then each of these you crumple up into snowballs. And then you do something similar like this. So after the timer goes off, each side counts the number of snowballs in the room, on their side of the room, rather. Each snowball equals 1 point for the other team. But there's more. Then each team reads the contents as a team, and they get 1 point if they can answer the question, if they can guess what that is, right? And so then the team with the most points at the end wins, and then you can give them some, whatever you would use as a prize. Right? And I found students really loved doing that as a review. All right. Another activity that works similarly to this is the exploding box get to know you activity, right? An exploding box, you may have seen these on social media and viral things where you design a box that once you untie, it opens up, it explodes, and all this junk falls out of it, right? So I've included two things: a step-by-step video on how to make something that looks real pretty like that image, and it's actually not that hard. And then a few templates at the link, so you can literally print the template and have students cut them out. But how does this work as a get to know you? Well, students can fill it with information about themselves. You can give them specific prompts or images or symbols about themselves later on that can be used as a review activity for images and symbols that represent whatever is in the content that you've been learning. All right. This next one is who is telling the truth. I've liked doing this at the beginning of the year, and then periodically students the first time get a little hesitant until we're actually doing it, and they absolutely love it. So this is one of my favorite things to do, and I get requests to do it throughout the year when I've done this. So the way this works, it's essentially a version of two truths and a lie. But in this case, you get students in groups. Let's say a group of 3, and you have one student, or each student rather, take turns sharing an interesting tidbit about themselves. And then after everyone's shared, you select one of those to be your truth statement, probably one of the more wild stories, and that's going to be the truth one. And then the other 2 students make up lies. They make up a fake story. And then you have students present it to the class, right? Now, I like to have them use a visual to present it. So for example, here's this one, right? So on a single slide, I just had students, write down the three facts, and then we figure out who's telling the truth, right? So there is, in this example, I have a verified witch in my ancestry. Mom was arrested for smuggling animals across states, and one of us owns 19 pets. And then we take turns as a class trying to figure out which one is the truth statement, right? And it tends to be a lot of fun. By the way, it was the middle one. That was the truth statement. Mom was arrested, and the animal was a ferret. So beware of ferrets, I guess. Or you can have students create an entire slide for themselves in this. And this is great because one of the things I kind of despise about student presentations is when there's a slide full of just text, and then the students just read the text and not even well, right? And so this gets them trained to use more images to tell a story, right? And this helps them process information. And so then later on, when I'm having them do presentations, I often like using the no word presentations or 0 word presentations, where they have to present the information, but only using images. And this is a good way to help with the exercise. And there's a couple of other examples that I've included that students made. All right. This next one is called Making Words with Friends. And this is a version of Words with Friends and Scrabble that we do, and like you might be familiar with. All right. So very simple. You have students in teams. You have each member create 2 letter tiles. On one sheet of paper, they write a consonant, and on another one, they draw a vowel. Might be a good moment, a teachable moment, to tell them the difference between the two. Hopefully not, but and then I would tell them to make sure they're like either all capital or all lowercase. For whatever reason, students are loving lowercase only for right now. I don't know why, but whatever. So just keep it consistent, and then you select roles in these groups. Right? You have someone to be the recorder who's going to keep an eye on the clock. Who's going to be the one writing down the words when they're arranged. The timekeeper is the one that keeps an eye on the clock, and then the players, you can have multiples of these are the ones moving the letters around, right, to make words. And the team that makes the most words in the time allotted wins. Then subsequently you have these tiles already made, so you can shuffle them and divvy them out, and it's a great sort of brain break activity that still requires a little bit of cognitive effort, right? So it helps students sort of reset cognitively between activities. So I found this one to be very effective. All right, so this is the 16 personalities test, and I've showed this one before, but I'm adding an extra twist to this one. Okay, so this is not a rerun; it's a little bit of a rerun with an added new content in there. So if you're not familiar with the 16 personalities test, it's hyperlinked there, and what it does is it's sort of a survey. Students answer a few questions, very brief questions, and then it gives them a detailed rundown of what their personality is like based on those answers. They can go back and retake it if they don't find them to be accurate. But one of the most fun parts of this is that at the end it tells you what celebrities are most like you, and even fictional characters. So there's my personality. I'm the campaigner, and those are the celebrities that are most like me, apparently, right? And so this can, it's like kind of a fun way to get to know students. And, if you have someone who is a trickster like Robin Williams or Robert Downey Jr. there, then better keep an eye on that date, right? So here's the new twist. So added a link to the test itself there, my personality sample, but then also 2 reflection activities. And these are kind of fun. I'll start with the second one here because it goes all sort of hand in hand with the test results themselves, right? And so you can almost go like split screen and kind of record some of that information. They can color it in and things like that and reflect on it. But also included this other one with someone shared with me that has some reflective questions based on those results. And some of them that, like, hey, what stood out for you? Where were you like, oh yeah, that's totally me, and why? Things like that. So that's the new twist to the 16 personalities test. All right. This one also is one that I've shared before, and if you've seen my other video on this, share it there too, but it's creating a SMART goal. I'm sharing this because it'll connect to the next activity as well, so you can use this with the next one. So if you're not familiar with the SMART goal activity, what it is simply it's a systematic method for designing goals. And this video here by Khan Academy explains sort of the process, and then here is a link to a slide presentation where you kind of develop this goal using this acronym so that it is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. The video will explain that a little further. Right, but it gives examples like this, like make it specific and a non-example and what an example is, and then students can write their goal in the red box. Right, and so one of the ways that I've had success using this is in back to school night. Have students prior to back to school night design a SMART goal for themselves for the year. And then parents can see what the student's goal is, and you can decide if it's going to be academic or academic specifically to your content matter, or maybe it's like a more personal, right? So you can decide whether that is. I've had students do this on Flip back when that was available. Padlet is a good alternative to that, where they record themselves explaining their SMART goal. And then you can even have the parents or other faculty members or yourself record a response of encouragement, so that when they're having trouble meeting that goal through the semester, they have a word of encouragement there to help them with it as a motivator. All right, so keep that in the back of your mind as we look at these next few. All right, so one is SEL check-ins with a couple of different versions of this: coloring pages and spreadsheets. Because I know when you think of social emotional learning, you think spreadsheets, right? So let's take a look at this one first. So SEL tracker. So Lisa Johnson from techchefforyou.com and author of Creatively Productive developed these Google Sheet trackers to help students self-monitor and motivate themselves. So you can find them on our website. I also hyperlink them on this page, but they're just spreadsheets like this. They change color depending on how you answer, and so students can keep track of their mood for this example, and then record a daily word of gratitude. Right? And there's other ones where it's something more reflective, something on reading, and one that has to do with like health, so like how much water are you drinking and things like that. Okay. The other more fun one, I think, maybe more analog one, is using this PDF. I got this from spaceandquiet.com, and what it is it's this sort of like pie wheel, and if you notice that each slice that pie is numbered 1 through 31 based on a month, right? And so you have those blank circles on the top and the bottom, so students can color code things, so they can keep track of up to 8 things, or a degree of up to 8 things, and they could either keep it to themselves or share or write it down there. But then at the beginning of class, you get like 2 minutes to color in your pie slice to keep track of how things are going. All right. So remember I said this is connected to the SMART goal. Well, you can connect this very thing to that SMART goal. So you might have 3 or 4 benchmarks or 3 or 4 things that students are tracking to be able to monitor whether or not they are achieving or moving towards achieving their goal. Right, and they can keep track of it, so that if things are not looking great, like I'm not going to make this goal, they have a visual reminder of that. All right. Related to this is the mood meters for regular social emotional learning check-ins, right? So this was inspired by Miss Pace. This kind of went viral during COVID, where this teacher, Miss Pace, made over 50 slides that look very similar to this, where she would ask her students online, right? Hey, which what number best describes your mood right now? Which Avenger best describes you right now? So one of the problems that I faced was that I did this with my students. I used some of hers, and I thought, oh, I'll use some of mine. Um, Very quickly, the students were sort of like, "Oh, Revis, this isn't this is lame. Like why'd you choose Avengers? Like." And I'm like, "What? I thought that was cool." And and the students were like, "No, this one is actually made by students." Yeah. But so I so then I was like, all right, why don't you make them? And then I thought, oh yeah, why don't you make them? And so the link down here, the mood meters, give you an example template that I made for my students. So you can copy this. The directions are really what you would need, but then there's samples of student-made mood meters. Right. So then I would just use the mood meters the students made themselves. Right. And so if they don't like them, they can, that's on them. They made it. All right. Okay. And then the Miss Pace link will send you to her original, which has over 50. So you kind of have one for more than one for every week of school, right? But I encourage you to have your students make them. And again, coming back to the get to know you thing, yeah, when the students make these, you get to know what they're into, right? So if students are really into Avengers, and you can they'll make one from that, and that gives you something to hopefully talk to them about. But wait, there's more. That was 10, but there's way more. So I keep updating this document, each as the year goes on, really. The nice to meet you document. So the QR code there will take you to it. It was linked at the beginning of the presentation as well, and I'll show it to you one more time. But these were 10 activities that I grabbed from that one document. So as of right now, I'm at 27. I'll likely be adding more this school year. So that's you have that available to you, always free right there. Also wanted to share a couple of Edutopia articles that I thought informed this topic pretty well. They're hyperlinked here on this slide if you're interested. And all right, so here is my contact information. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions or concerns. I'll put my contact info here one more time. All right, so there's my website. There's my social handles and my email address, and links to the nice to meet you document with the 27 things is the one with the little hand, and the computer screen there is the links to these slides. So thanks for watching. Again, reach out. Please do if you have any questions at all about any of these things, and wish you a happy school year.